Watching TV has changed over time. Streaming has become the new norm. That's why Golden State Media Concepts television podcast dives headfirst to the world of cord cutting. Want to be on the loop of what's hot in Netflix? Or if it's not a preference, what about original shows in Hulu? We've got you covered. Join us as we fill in the blanks and talk about movies to stream and what show you should be binging. This is the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to the GSMC Television News Podcast.
I'm Shay Northrup.
And I'm Ravina.
And I'm Jordan Giles. And here we are back for another beautiful episode, 29th to be exact.
Oh, wow.
We've gone through a lot together.
We definitely have, and we're about to go through some more. So we've got an icebreaker for you guys. Name a show that came out before you were born that you enjoy.
Uh-oh. Am I going first this time?
Yeah, you have to go first this time. You always go last.
Well, we could even, I mean, if you want to, be a jerk about it, if you want to be like a like a smart
Uh-huh.
I can't, okay, you could say The Simpsons, right? Like, if you were wanting to be rude about it.
Let's not.
I know. I'm actually going to say Taxi with Andy Kaufman in the 70s and Danny DeVito.
Oh, nice.
And Christopher Lloyd. I watched all of those episodes consecutively, back to back, binge watched it. And that's a lot of episodes. And
where can you find it nowadays?
I bought the seasons on Amazon, actually.
Oh, really?
I'm sure that if you wanted to search out and do some illegal thing that I do not recommend doing whatsoever, you could easily find it online.
We at GSMC Television Podcast do not condone the use of pirate software, but
if you did,
you could find whatever it is you want to see.
Yeah, Taxi included. And I believe it's 6 seasons of Christopher Lloyd being a fried brain drug head hippie, Danny DeVito being a jerk.
Can I just say that I love Danny DeVito?
Really? I think that, that's a fair, safe thing to say.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of people that don't like Danny DeVito.
He's enjoyable, and I think he affected all of us in childhood at some point. I mean, he's been around for so long. Well, I mean, he was One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Well, and The Penguin and Twins.
Matilda's dad. You can't forget about Matilda's dad.
Of course. You scarred us from the last episode about Matilda.
I don't see how.
Why do you keep bringing up Matilda in the television
I'm
podcast?
not. You brought up Danny DeVito. It just so happens he was also in Matilda.
You brought up Danny DeVito, my friend.
He knows what episode he's in.
It's not about this. But, And
then It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, though.
He stayed consistently just a likable dude.
Yeah. His whole career.
Arnold Schwarzenegger's twin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They look
guys,
perfect.
Danny DeVito won an Emmy. Oh, no, sorry. He won a Golden Globe because of Taxi.
Really?
Yeah.
I believe it.
I had no idea. Well deserved, though. Mm-hmm. Honestly, the reason I wanted to watch Taxi and I watched everything just because I loved Andy Kaufman and I was so fascinated with
Andy Kaufman's great.
What's going on with this Kaufman man? And as I went through it and I saw Taxi, I just genuinely loved every character in the show, and I loved that there's a lot of cliches, and they're cliches around our time because 30 years later, 40 years later, watching television, a lot of things have been done over and over again. And by the time it gets to you, even if it was the first person to have a boulder going down the scene whenever you pulled a statue, you still go, another boulder falling down. Indiana Jones is so unoriginal. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You look a little bit lost, Shay.
I guess I am. I don't know. I love that scene in Indiana Jones, and I don't think it took away from it at all.
And I'm not saying Indiana Jones is that problem. I'm just saying that there's some things, there's some storylines, plot jokes, just things that were done at first, and they were really cool, and they were so cool that people have been borrowing them from that you've seen, like
in every
cartoon shows, like
buddy cop and dog movie. They always have to say that the dog is rough on crime.
Yeah,
I hate that.
So you know what I'm talking about. The first time a boulder came down the screen, it was, wow, it's amazing. But when you see it through your Dexter's Lab, whatever shows you watched growing up and going through, people doing their homages to it or, their little references.
Right.
By the time you see the original movie, you're like, no, I've already seen that 6 times. It takes away from some of the initial magic.
I agree.
I suppose. I could argue differently, but that would take too long. Ravina, what would you say?
Full House. Classic. Because I was born in 95 and the show came out in 1987.
Okay, yeah, that
so
counts.
I would say Full House, and I continued on and I watched Fuller House, which is on Netflix. And
is that good?
Yeah, it was like a nice drink coffee, watch the show, relax, just mindless, cute.
I think the only thing I really like about Full House, besides the fact
Jesse?
that besides the fact that Bob Saget's on it, is that
Bob Saget.
It's so fun to just yell his name.
Bob Saget.
But I think that show heavily inspired BoJack Horseman, and so for that I will give Full House its due.
Yeah, say what you want about Full House being, cliche or any of the things that now you grow to love. BoJack Horseman, so much fun.
Totally. So what was it about Full House that you liked so much?
I just like the family environment, and also Mary, Kate, and Ashley Olsen. Watching them as they were little, when I was little, and it was something that I'd watch with my parents too. So it was just like a good family show. It was just started becoming routine.
Did you guys watch their movies?
I did watch the Mary, Kate, and Ashley movies when they first came out. When they were teenagers.
I didn't watch them.
Yeah, so Full House was definitely a show that I watched quite a lot growing up. And I liked the kids. They were silly voices and happy, jolly kids. And I was a kid at the time, so I really enjoyed it. And also, I followed Mary, Kate, and Ashley throughout their career due to the show.
Well, that's good.
I watched all of the movies that came out with them and their fashion line. And, you feel like you kind of, know them or you grow up with them. So,
whatever happened to them?
They refused to actually come back for Fuller House, the Netflix series.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
They refused, and they actually make a lot of punches at them for not coming back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. They're
in the show, little...
Yeah, in the show. No. In the show, once they're like, yeah, they're too good for us. And then they all look at the camera. The whole set stops, they all look at the camera. And then after the episode ends, they literally, it's pretty funny. You should watch it.
I just want to see a compilation of those moments.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's going to take up it's half the shows we're just making.
And then
they suck. Look at the camera.
In one episode, this girl is just and then the mom was just pretty much I had to buy, her this dress. It was Mary, Kate, and Ashley. So expensive. How that line is,
Constant
so
little cute
funny.
nods. Yeah. I just remembered Judd Hirsch also was in Taxi.
Oh, really?
And I forgot that was actually one of the things where it made me go, wow, Judd Hirsch, he's great. Yeah, can't get enough. So there was a lot of actors that you'll recognize and go, 70s, it's been a while. I love them.
The 70s, I think, had a really good time for TV shows in of themselves. For my two, I was going to say MASH and Mumford and Sons.
So you've got two here. You've got MASH and Mumford & Sons.
Yeah, my dad, whenever he would come home from work, would watch MASH. And I remember when I was a kid, I hated it because I didn't want to watch the show about a bunch of medics complaining about being in a war, which is a lot of what that
sounds like
show
a Shay
is.
thing. How old were you when you first realized you were Shay?
What do you mean?
That sounds like a real Shay thing of you to say. That's...
I didn't want to watch a bunch of guys standing around complaining.
That's word for word sounds like something you'd have a complaint right now, as of this week talking about.
No, but I actually love MASH. After a little while, it started to grow on me, and I enjoyed the humor, and I enjoyed the political points and stabs that they made about war in of itself, and I think it's actually legitimately a great show, and I've seen almost all of it.
Yeah, so that was.
But I think I was just a kid, and it looked boring.
What about Sanford. I was about to say Mumford and Sons.
Sanford and Sons. I didn't say Mumford and Sons first, did I? Did I say Sanford and Sons?
We'll find out when we go back to this episode.
No, I meant Sanford and Son, and that show. It's about. Do you know anything about Sanford and Son?
Yeah, actually, the theme song to Mumford and Sons. I did it again. I'm sorry. Now Mumford's on the mind. Sanford and Son. The theme song was something that I think was stuck in my head all throughout fourth through 8th grade. Like
I just feel like that song is just like always stuck in my head.
Bum, bum, ba, we won't do it now.
Don't ruin the audience. But the junker and his son Lamar, and like, you know, the dad's like kind of a grumpy old man and a little bit stingy, and then the son's actually like a good person, and you know, the insults and hijinks. It's all good stuff.
The insults and the hijinks and the whatnots and the who's that's. Yeah.
It's good stuff. A lot of fun.
I liked it. There was a lot to like about it. It was a really pretty show, you know? Is pretty like a good way to describe it?
I don't know, because it's not like one of those like heavily family-friendly shows. Like, they're constantly insulting each other and being mean to each other, but it's not like... I mean, it's not like Daredevil or like... Game of Thrones, where it's bloody and violent with a lot of sex. Like, it's just kind of, I guess, PG rated, PG-13
like
rated. The good old days when TV was simpler.
I suppose.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We're coming up for a commercial break, so when we come back, we're going to be talking about Haters Back Off, the new Netflix original starring Miranda Sings. So stay tuned.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the GSMC Television Podcast. I'm joined with
Shay Northrup.
Jordan Giles.
and myself. So
That's
now
the real Ravina.
the real Ravina. I just had to wait for it.
Can't let it go, huh?
Never.
So now we're going to talk about this new Netflix show called Haters Back Off. And as Jordan was just saying, it's based off Miranda Sings' life and how she started off on YouTube. So it's about an untalented young performer who seeks fame on YouTube, but it pretty much just illustrates the jump from YouTube sensation to trying to have a successful television show. So they're half-hour episodes, and they're just talking about her road to fame from the time she uploads her very, very first video.
Yeah, so it's the evolution of Miranda Sings, and it's not entirely accurate. This isn't like a real gritty portrayal.
This is her character, right? Like the character she portrays in the YouTube videos. Are you a fan of her YouTube work, Jordan?
Not really, not particularly.
I mean, me neither.
I don't understand how they
know
can
who she was.
Like stretch it into a TV show, because the videos like you watch just for a couple minutes just to laugh.
I really feel like,
but
like my personal opinion of this show, just watching the brief little bit that I've seen, it really seems like, like you said, like it just seems like it's not working like it did on YouTube.
It's
like
just awkward when you're if it's a Netflix original, we're comparing it to Narcos.
Yeah,
we're comparing it.
Well, it's shot
not necessarily, but along the lines.
Yeah,
of,
it should be good.
Yeah,
I don't know. I know she does a lot of the writing and stuff herself, which I think might be part of the problem.
Like she's just trying to relive her glory days.
There are some characters
I don't think
it's
charming. Necessarily going for accurate.
No, it's supposed to be just like a funny character piece.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. It's basically if she was really that character the entire time, and the results of, and if her family was really as dysfunctional as her character was in the videos, you know?
Like her uncle is charming and her mom has her moments and that sort of thing. But like, I mean, there was this really awkward episode where she's just singing in a church choir and trying to flirt with a boy. And at that point I had to turn the like, this was like further in the series.
Yeah. You're about 4 to 3 episodes in. Yeah.
And I just had to turn it off. Like it was, I've given it its chance and I think I'm done with it. You know, like it was awkward and like I don't mind awkward things. Like Napoleon Dynamite is my favorite comedy. And then I don't know if you've ever seen Eagle and Shark. Mm-mm. It is a
Napoleon Dynamite's your favorite?
Yeah.
Really?
We'll talk about that. Like there's a reason for it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, Netflix describes the show, and I quote, like a bizarre family comedy and commentary on today's society, our fascination with fame. So it kind of depicts that and looks a little bit closer into it, which is interesting. Like a point that I wanted to bring up with you guys is, isn't it funny how you really see society and how it's progressed over the years, because now documentaries are based on how people got famous off YouTube, and in the past it was like how Steve Jobs slowly became, you know, famous. It's crazy to think about.
We still make documentaries like Steve Jobs being famous.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff out there.
We just have a broader like selection.
We have more
to
at
pick
our
from.
disposal, but it's just showed how technology is really advanced because people are becoming stars off YouTube, you know, versus
well, like at one point documentaries weren't even popular, you know, like documentaries weren't something people watched very often. And I think with, you know, even though I'm not a big fan of them myself, but people like Michael Moore and Morgan Spurlock and a couple of these other guys kind of made it more popular just because of the more hits that, you know, got out there.
And I think this is pretty far away from a documentary. The show,
yeah,
itself.
this is a sketch.
It's basically like Louis C.K., where his show Louis, where it's a character. It's a world being told. It's not necessarily accurate, but it has
elements that are accurate.
Elements that are accurate, but not even with Louis. Like within the character of Miranda Sings. YouTube.
Yeah, sorry, I was kind of calling it a documentary because it's about pretty much her life and how she rose to fame, but with entertainment aspects.
And I think even then, it's not really about, and it could be loosely based, but even then, it's almost like one of those stories where, like, what if war was fought with ducks, kind of thing, like where you're taking a real subject and you're adding the thing, like her character.
I would rather watch a show where they replaced guns with ducks than this show. I have to say, like, I'm just really not impressed by it. There are little elements that I like. It reminds me a bit of like the Eagle and Shark, Napoleon Dynamite type thing, but not in the good ways.
It tries to go for it, but it kind of fails.
It doesn't. Yeah. It does. It makes you
cringe
more. It's like a Workaholics episode to me.
Except for I like to cringe at Workaholics. I don't like to cringe at this.
Yeah, but the dad was kind of cute. Or sorry, was the uncle?
Yeah, he's the uncle. Character. I like the uncle. He's my favorite part of the whole show.
He's like, 52 views. We're going viral.
No, this is the same guy from Eastbound and Down and The Grinder, where he kind of ends up playing this lovable, you know, number one fan, big fanatic of the person that, you know, the main character. Mm-hmm. He's I guess that's the typecast now, right? I mean, you've seen Eastbound and Down, right?
Yeah.
And where he was, you know, his number one fan, and he goes into The Grinder where he's like, I love you, I'm your number one fan, to Rob Lowe. Now it's Miranda Sings, you're going to make it, I'm your number one fan, P.S. I'm your uncle.
Well, and then there was that, oh man, like the kid that's always defending her with swords and stuff, that's just annoying to me.
It gets played out pretty fast.
Yeah.
Their awkward, stunted love.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Well, like it continues to evolve throughout the season.
One of the things that was kind of interesting about Eagle and Shark, and if you guys haven't checked out Eagle and Shark, it's really good. It's a New Zealand like art kind of film in the same vein of this kind of thing.
With Jermaine Clement from Flight of the Conchords.
Yes.
Men in Black 3.
Yes.
God, where are we in with that? What We Do in the Shadows.
And like in it, one of the guys is like training to fight his high school bully. And like like what ends up happening, like she's just kind of following along because she's like in love with him and everything. And like all the things that happen are very quirky and fun, where this isn't quirky or fun.
Okay, I can get that. So this isn't something you'll ever return to?
Oh no, I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes and I don't normally just turn something off. I usually finish it out to the end. And that choir scene was so bad and so awkward that I just turned it off. Like, I just couldn't.
I agree with Shay. Like, I hate to say this, but the show is too loud in weird ways, and it was kind of annoying.
It's obnoxious.
Yeah, it's definitely obnoxious. So
what would you say, Jordan? Feel free to disagree.
I would give season 2 a chance to see what happens if they start to
he
progress
actually
more.
watched the whole season. Let's clarify.
I guess I care about this show, guys.
He's kind of committed. He watched the season. It has only 42% Rotten Tomatoes though online too. So Shay, we're not the only ones.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like, there's things to enjoy about it, and I guess that's me being nice. There's things that work for it. The supporting cast. I mean, like you said, the uncle, the
mom's joke about her self-diagnosed fibromyalgia, and this is kind of funny.
Yeah, see, there's things that you can say that you like about the show. I don't think it's a total failure, and because it's not a total failure, I think there's hope for season 2 to kind of, appeal to people like Shay and Ravina that just weren't necessarily feeling it.
What would you give this on a scale of 1 to 5, Ravina?
So I just want to say before that, this show kind of reminds me of Mascots in a weird way. Like, it has tones of that. Like, you see the attempt of what it's trying to do. But see, I gave Mascots a 3 out of 5 being generous. I would give Miranda Sings probably 1.5. I see the direction it's trying to go. I feel like it's trying to be more like Mascots, but it's not. It's 1.5. Yeah. So it's kind of the vibes I got from watching it.
Well, God, I guess I'm kind of like tempted to give it either 1.5 or a 2.
So 1.5 or a 2 for you?
Yeah, just around those numbers. Just throw a dart between 1.5 and 2, and you'll find my score. Yeah.
All right.
Let's get out the scoreboard, dartboard.
And so 1.526 or something.
Yeah, you get it.
I'd give this a 2. It's not dirt, but it's nothing that I'll probably ever watch again.
Well, you've inspired me. I'm going up to 2. If you can be so forgiving, I watched the whole season.
That's not forgiving to me. Like, 2 for me is bad. Like, 3 is like average okay. 2 is bad. 1 is unwatchable.
Is 3 average okay?
3 is average okay for me. Like, 4 is like, yeah, I really liked it. And 5 is like, that was pretty good.
Knowing how we're going to do this, I'm going to have to push it back to a 2 then. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like for me, like 3 is something that I didn't mind watching the first time.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So it looks like that's about all the time we have for this segment. When we get back, we're going to talk to you guys about Insecure. So stick around.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch, whatever it may be.
Welcome back to the Golden State Media Concepts television podcast. We're going to talk to you guys a little bit about some insecurities with Insecure. Now, one of the things that I actually really liked from the show, just from the get-go, was the fact that Insecure is not capitalized in the font.
No.
And it's done in almost in italics. So I don't know if you guys,
That kind of makes you feel some type of way because it's like... It's differing from the normal.
Yeah, like it doesn't take up too much of the screen when it's showed. Like I just like the way that the font kind of portrays the whole thing.
Ties it together.
So you're okay. It already sounds like you're a big fan of Insecure.
Now, when I was first watching it, I kind of had a brief moment like I had with Atlanta where like the first 5 minutes I was like, oh, I don't know about this. Because she was inside the classroom and then the kids are making fun of her and then she snaps back at them and I'm like, oh no, I don't know. And then like they go into her office, but then pretty soon I started realizing that I actually do enjoy the show. And as the show progressed, even like the music is really good. Like, I don't know, I'm very impressed with the show. It seems like it's about two black ladies living in LA having a hard time with life. So they're successful, but they're having a hard time with their relationships. And it's funny because it seems like every single episode, one starts on one place, one starts on the complete opposite place, and then they end up on the same spot at the end.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so they're both working opposite of each other in their relationship life, but then at the end of the episode, they always end up in the same place.
And I agree. I actually really love the show too. I can see where you're kind of coming from with it in Atlanta. I think the two shows, and I've been keeping up with Atlanta as we've been going on. I really am enjoying it.
It's a great show.
Oh my god! Have you seen the new station one?
I haven't.
We're gonna watch that together.
I need to catch up on it.
Yeah, but I think that they juggle being real while at the same time being delightful. You know,
exactly.
Now
it's a slice
Atlanta,
of life.
It's a bit more dramatic. It's a bit more gritty. While it can be and have a lot of fun in it, you still get this whole impression of, oh, geez, this is intense. You know. Atlanta, this is dark. Whereas Insecure, even at the darkest moments, it still kind of felt less. The stakes never felt as high as they do in Atlanta. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed. I'm gonna separate these two. I mean, they're their own shows. I enjoyed Insecure a lot for. It felt very, and I guess I can keep going back to the word real. At no part did it feel like this was a comedy that was just fake. It's like a sitcom. It doesn't have canned laughs. It has.
Oh yeah.
It felt so honest with everything that you like. You can feel like, oh, I can understand you experiencing that. It's told from this perspective of you can't see somebody that's just writing that without realizing that they've gone through it. You know.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's the slice of life, man.
It's the slice of life.
And it's based on like the current experiences of contemporary African American women.
Yeah, I know, and that's great in
it
itself.
Really real, and not very often. Like, do you see multicultural people playing the roles of lead? You know.
Oh yeah,
lead.
no.
It's happening now with Quantico. We got Priyanka Chopra, so we got.
And the Get Down.
And we also talking about how Lucas Cage was like an African American male.
Yeah.
Actor, you know, so it's nice to see this diversity coming out, but it's not a basic show like the other networks. This gives me
Hope?
Malcolm vibes and hope, and it's different from HBO does pick up good shows like Game of Thrones, right? So I guess it's kind of expected for them to go
pretty much all of I can't say that there's anything on HBO that I don't like.
Yeah, so it does keep it real, but I remember when I was watching the trailer and she was walking on the beach with some kids, and then someone was like, "Why don't they swim?" And then she turns around and goes, "'Cause they were slaves." You know?
Oh my god!
So it's funny, it's real, and it just kind of like she's saying how she feels. And you know, if it was a Caucasian man running on the beach, and he's kind of like, "Oh snap! I got nothing to say to that."
There's a bit of fearlessness in it, and
yeah,
I guess that
and
comes
I like
with something.
that it's not so pronounced or in your face. It's just she's saying what she wants to say, and she's.
And that's a big part of the show too, is she's trying to become the person she was in college. She's trying to become a strong, because she feels like insecure and like that she's kind of let that go, and now she's trying to kind of come out of becoming more strong as a person and being willing to say what she wants to say. Like one of my favorite scenes from the 2 episodes we've got so far is that there's a scene where she's talking to one of the girls she has to work with on a project for her work, and the lady's like, well, maybe we can have these kids go, and they're underprivileged kids in elementary school, and she's like, well, maybe we can have them go and pick up trash in another neighborhood. And she's like, that's the whitest thing I've ever heard anybody say. And I was like, yeah, that's funny. It is. You know, I have to say, I'm liking that now in TV. There are shows out there now where there's the token white person. I'm glad that there is shows out there with token white people.
In
the background.
Totally
I love it.
It's a good feeling to see, like, just as you're watching TV, it doesn't all feel like it's cut from the same cloth, you know?
Yeah.
This
is cut from a much better cloth.
And also
fine fabrics.
the finest of silk.
I was gonna say that it cuts through stereotypes with sharp wit.
Definitely.
That's a good way to put it, I think. And also, it's getting amazing reviews. Like on Rotten Tomatoes, it has 100% reviews based on 44 of them, and it balances out an average rating of 8 out of 10.
Now, I don't know about, like... I don't completely understand how Rotten Tomatoes does things because not everybody on there rated that movie 100%. You know what I mean? So I don't know how it necessarily has 100%.
Yeah.
I think like the rating systems are kind of a
It's
little
different, but the average one that we
weird.
look at is 8 out of 10. Like the one that will pop up.
Yeah, like most people say it's 8 out of 10. Like I don't know why it's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Maybe the Rotten
It might have
Tomatoes
changed by
really
now.
loves it.
It fluctuates.
I guess. I just like Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes, and IMDb. I don't think are very fair at their movie ratings.
Well, in regards to the show, I'm kind of upset because I'm already sad before I'm like fully starting it because there's only 8 episodes in the first season. I already know I'm like falling in love with it.
Well, only 2 are out, right? Like, there's only 2 episodes that have been released.
But only 8? I feel like this could easily be like a 13 episode series.
Well, I don't know. I think that's kind of like a good sweet spot for like a
Just to balance
realistic
it, like
comedy.
wanting
You know,
more
like
in it.
I don't want this to end up getting old. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Yeah.
it's got to stay fresh like the tomatoes.
And unique, like while it can be.
Like kind of like how we were talking about Master of None. If there were 13 episodes in a Master of None season, I think it would get old pretty fast. I feel like it's the same thing with this.
Yeah. Okay. Well, do you guys want to end this with talking about episode 2 of Westworld, and then as we go on through the weeks, we'll just be talking about some Westworld. I mean,
Yeah, at the tail end of some of our podcasts, I guess we'll talk about some Westworld.
join in on the fun because I cannot get enough of it. I've
Me
watched
neither.
I've watched a few. I think I've watched every episode with the exception of 3 twice. So
Really?
I've watched episode 1 and 2 twice. I could have just said that.
It's that good though. Like in all honesty, what's going on in episode 2? They focused a lot more on the lead prostitute in this episode, so it feels like at this point we're getting a new character in the Westworld. Like the animatronics.
Yeah, they're
We're
introducing
focusing-
some new characters, and they're focusing on some of the ones they touched on. And what I really think of what I'm seeing through episode 3 too, the first 3 episodes, kind of like Game of Thrones, they're spacing out the attention. They're not just focusing on one person, and it gives the show and the environment time
Each
to grow.
episode seems to focus on another animatronic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the main focal point is a different. It seems to be a different animatronic every episode.
And I'm seeing. Well, they're of course they're returning to the main lady there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course.
Miss Dolores, but I think overall there's I guess there's nothing else I can compare it to other than Game of Thrones. Like I really see this becoming as popular.
I think it's bigger than Game of Thrones. Well, I don't think
soon
it's,
to say.
I don't
Shay.
think it's bigger is in the sense like people like it better, but I feel like as far as like budget and everything goes, it's comparable, and I think as far as quality, it might even be better.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly, like, at this point, if you were to be like, okay, so here's a season of Game of Thrones, here's a season of Westworld, pick one. I think at this point, I would say Westworld for right now. Now, we'll see where it goes because I don't always like everything Jonathan Nolan writes. He has hits and misses with me.
Okay.
So I'm very curious to see where this is going to go. I loved how in this last scene that, or in episode 2, I love that scene where Anthony Hopkins denies one of the writers his whole story. Like the guy has the animatronics made, he has them perfect, he has the story all written out, and Anthony Hopkins is just like, no.
Yeah, it's all well and done, ready to go, but it's too soon to say a lot of the factors in the show, but it definitely feels like it's going somewhere special. Like,
Right.
it feels like it's continued building up.
Yeah, and another reason why I think it's so successful is because in peak of Game of Thrones return, it's like filling that craving for everybody that's hooked on Game of Thrones. So it has enough time to build up the hype and get to the level where it's at because Westworld is what everybody's watching now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely keeping HBO relevant.
Yeah.
I think with this last episode, too, if I just want to say one more thing about episode 2, I like the theme of you go to Westworld to figure out who you are. Mm-hmm. And then at the end, what Anthony Hopkins has to say about, like, we already know who we are. It's about, like, discovering who they are. It's about, discovering things that not everybody else sees. And I'm like, dang.
This could totally replace Game of Thrones for me.
Well,
if it just keeps up this current trend.
Game of Thrones is very political. Westworld seems to have a lot of layers, is in the fact that it's very philosophical, and I think we can all get down with that.
Yeah. Well, I guess this wraps up the show.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and don't forget GSMCpodcast.com. Please hit us up. We want to know what you think. If you like the show, tell us what we can do better if you didn't like the show. And that being said, I'm Shay Northrup.
I'm Jordan Giles.
And I'm Ravina.
The real Ravina. You heard it here, guys. Stay saucy.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Television Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.